And welcome back, everyone, to episode 8 of the Sports Coverage Podcast. My name is Andrew, and I'm alongside my co host, Vince. We have a jam packed episode this week. We got a bunch of sports, bunch of things to talk about that have happened in the last week since our last episode. As always, follow the Instagram, check out the Spotify. We have shorts going up on the YouTube. And of course, these podcasts come out every Monday. So we're going to jump right in to the NFL, which we usually start with. And as we have two crazy week 3 games that we want to touch on real quick. One of them, and the one we're going to start with, Vince is very happy about, and that is the Dolphins coming oh so close to the record, but still beating the Broncos 70-20.
Yeah, it's all about respect, and I understand why we didn't even try to beat the record. It's out of respect. It'd be an embarrassment for not only Sean Payton and his legacy as a Hall of Famer coach, but it's really just an embarrassment. It would be such a foolish act of Mike McDaniel to do that, and it's a classy move. So I understand why we didn't do that, but when we look at how the team played, this is something we haven't seen in decades. This is a team that hasn't played this good since 1972, 1973. This Miami Dolphins team is back, and I told you since the start of the podcast, whenever we started talking about football, I told you this Dolphins team was going to be special. Was I right?
So far, it looks like you've been right. So, just one thing that I noticed from the box score is Tyreek Hill had 9 receptions, 157 yards in total, which means his average yardage per reception was 17.4, which is something's going on there with that with defense. If you're letting someone get 17.4 yards on average in 9 receptions.
Well, hold on, Andrew. How about the running game? Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert. I mean, now, I don't even think we needed Dalvin Cook or Jonathan Taylor. This team is like, Devon Achane hasn't played. I don't think a single snap since last. I think last week was his first ever week, and it's crazy that he got 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. You know, like that run, like the running game and just how Mike McDaniel calls the offense is just amazing. And I think I said it like episode 5 or something, or episode 4.
Yeah.
We were talking about how special an offensive coordinator is. It really is, or I mean, just yeah, any offensive minded head coach, how important it is to have the right play caller. And this is what I mean, Mike McDaniel, and that's why I use Mike McDaniel as my example because of how good he calls plays. He's an amazing coach, and this is why I think this Dolphins team is just so truly special.
Yeah. So in rushing, they had 350 yards throughout the game in total, with an average of 8.1 yards per carry for Miami's rushing team, which, again, that's crazy. But then you go to receiving, they had 376 yards in total. Their average was 15 yards. That means every reception they're getting like a first down.
Yeah, I mean, this team is just so good. Like I think we really just need to start realizing that this team isn't just gonna be a one hit wonder, just good this season and eventually be bad. Like this team is just gonna be so good going forward, and I think now that the Dolphins have the right coaches, the right players, Tua's healthy, just how and I gotta point something out before I keep on what I'm saying. We don't even have Jalen Ramsey, and I understand we
Yeah.
played the Denver Broncos, but we don't have Ramsey. This was our first home game of the year, and we just broke records in this game. So, it's a huge win, and I think hopefully we can beat the Bills tomorrow
Yeah.
on Sunday.
So next is the upset of the week, the Cowboys versus Cardinals, and the Cardinals came away victorious with this one in a 28-16 upset. This was a crazy game. Looked like Dallas was going to come back for a couple minutes there, but Arizona was able to pull away with it at the end. So Joshua Dobbs has been, so far, he's looked pretty good as Kyler Murray's backup and current replacement, as Kyler Murray is hurt. And I've liked what I've seen so far. He had 21 passing attempts, made 17 of them, but they did a lot of rushing in this game, and I think just everything came together for Arizona here. Dallas, Their defense, which we talked about in the last couple episodes, which is very good, but now without Diggs, looked a little shaky out there as they gave up 28 points to what many thought was going to be the worst offense in the NFL. So, just any quick thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I just think, you said the Cowboys, you said last episode the Cowboys were going to remain undefeated. And I liked your take, but we got to realize that anything could happen and anything is possible in this league. So many things could happen. And, this Cowboys team just wasn't in the right moment, in the right place, in the same, time. And, that's why they lost. Dak Prescott didn't have the best game. Had an interception. He threw an interception to, I'd say, one of the worst defenses in the league. I mean, they lost Isaiah Simmons in the offseason, and they just progressively gotten worse. But this Cardinals team showed up, especially a bounce back week from after losing to the Giants, on a comeback from them. So I think it's a huge win for them. I still don't think this Arizona team will go any farther than they have this week. I don't think they will be a 5-win team this season. So, the Cowboys still have a future. I just don't think Arizona does. So, even though the Cowboys lost, I just still see them as a better team. So, yeah.
I'm kind of excited to see what Arizona does with the rest of the season because this was certainly a surprise for Dallas and for Arizona. So I'm just looking to see what's Arizona going to do for the rest of the season. Are they going to be able to pull off any more upsets? So we're going to need to keep an eye on that in the upcoming episodes. Just quick recap of Thursday Night Football, which ended 34-20 in favor of the Detroit Lions. Any things you noticed during the game you want to touch on?
Well, I mean, not just the game, just the standings in general. I think we can now say that the Lions officially own the NFC North. I mean, I think it's clear that they are the best team in the NFC North. It's always been ruled by the Packers ever since Aaron Rodgers was there. And now that he left, I just don't think this Packers team is capable enough to be as good. And, the Vikings were really, really good last year, but they've obviously fell off a cliff being defeated. They haven't won a single game. And I don't think they'll win a single game, especially not next tomorrow. So yeah, I just like what I see is that this Lions team is just ready. They're coming out and they're playing. They beat the Chiefs week 1, and they lost to the Seahawks, but I just don't think it matters. I just think that there's such a good team that we could definitely see a good team, like a deep playoff run. I mean, it could possibly happen, and we'll definitely cover that the Lions season as we go forward. But I really just do think what we see from this game is that this Lions team is ready.
And just a quick thing about the Lions, Jameson Williams' suspension is going to be ending 2 weeks early, which will definitely give them even more of a boost in their upcoming games. So, as many of you may know, and this is big news around the NFL, Damar Hamlin will be making his Bills return on Sunday versus the Dolphins. This has been an incredible story that we've seen since his unfortunate medical episode on the field last year. And it was just a big thing. It brought the NFL community together, and we are so glad to see that he is doing better and he is able to make his return to Bills football.
Yeah, I'm very excited, but I don't know if it was the right move to let him play football. I know it's his passion. I know it's it's his career, it's his job. But you guys got to remember, he's still so young and he still has more to life. There's still more to life than just football. And I think it's a little insane that they're letting him play though he collapsed on a football field, you know.
And this
It's
early,
very
I mean
scary.
it, and this
I mean,
and even
yeah.
coming back within less
I mean,
than a year, which
it's a
and
little
which is an
under a year
incredible story.
exactly. I mean,
But it's an incredible story, and I'm so happy for him. But I think I
I mean,
think
I
that
don't
if
know if
they
it was the
took
right move.
I
I don't.
think that
I
if they
just
took all the right precautions and things, I think that
then
he's
yeah,
good to
maybe.
play, and
But
I'm excited to see him play.
yeah, listen, he's such a good player though. Like even like, I know, he probably wasn't so known before this, but he just like he is a really special safety, and the secondary for the Bills has been very not that good in years prior. So I think getting this addition back to the team is not only gonna help the defense, but it's gonna bring the team together. And obviously they playing the Dolphins
Yeah.
in Buffalo. I don't know if they'll win. I hope not. But I hope that Damar Hamlin does come back stronger than ever on
Yeah.
Sunday. And I think he have a
Yeah.
definitely good game, even though he's playing my team.
Yeah. So good luck to Damar Hamlin, and congratulations on his return to football. Speaking of more football, Monday Night Football is going to be coming up when you guys are hopefully listening to this podcast. Remember, we come out every Monday. So Saquon will still not be, or will most likely still not be playing this game, which will definitely hurt the Giants' offense. And something that has kind of been missing from the Giants team so far is their defense, which was very good last year with Kayvon Thibodeau having an amazing rookie season, and we haven't seen much of him. And we even made a lot of good additions over the offseason. So, what do you think about this Monday Night Football matchup?
Yeah, I really do like this matchup. I think it's going to be a good game. You know, last year, obviously, the Seahawks did end up winning against the Giants last season, but I don't know. I don't think this Giants team will be capable enough to win. I'm sorry. But I just think the Seahawks are the better team. I just think like, and it's not even just like taking shots at the Giants. And I like this team. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're capable enough to go over the hump and actually beat the Seahawks just because they don't have Saquon. I mean, he's the best offensive threat that they had. So I don't. I think it's going to be so hard for them to even play. So I'm taking Seahawks in this game.
All right. I'm not really gonna make a pick in this game. I really want the Giants to win because I am a big Giants fan, but we'll see what happens here. So, just a quick note: the first morning game of the season is coming this Sunday live from Wembley Stadium in London, and look out for the Falcons versus the Jaguars at 9:30 a.m. And if this is a good game, you'll hear more about it on the next episode. So stay tuned. Moving on to more football, but this time in college. It's time for our game of the week picks. Vince, what do you got?
Yeah, I got Colorado USC. You know, and Colorado did end up losing to Oregon last week. You know, very shocking. I mean, I think all of us probably thought, yeah, Oregon's probably going to win this game just because of how dominant they are. Bo Nix is a phenomenal player, phenomenal athlete, but everyone would probably think that it would be hard to bounce back from a loss, from a very good team in your own and in your conference. But you got to understand that that this Colorado team is just they're good. I mean, they're not like a one hit wonder, not just oh, I'm going to be here for 3 games and then fall off. I think this team is just still so capable enough to win. I think they're still going to be able to win games this season. I don't think this is going to be the end for them, this dynasty. So I do understand that Shador doesn't have Travis Hunter, but I believe. All right, give me Colorado Saturday at Folsom Field.
All right, my pick today, primetime game, Duke versus Notre Dame. This could be the first 5-0 start for Duke since 1994, and there's been a ton of hype around both of these teams. Notre Dame's always been a consistently good team, but Duke has come out of nowhere. And I'm excited to see how they play this game against a very, very good school. I'm going to go with Duke here. I think that they can bring this one home, and I'm excited to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I do like this matchup, and I like your game of the week pick. I just think Colorado USC just has the more hype. I know game day didn't obviously go to Colorado this week, but I mean, if Duke does end up winning, it would be just such a historic win for not only the team but for this it would have, yeah, the school in general. I just feel like it would bring the school together. I think more people would enjoy football in North Carolina now, not just because Duke is known as a basketball school, but I just think if Duke wins this game, it's just gonna be such a
Yeah.
huge.
And with the end of the Coach K era in NCAA college basketball, I think that Duke is looking for another big sport to represent, and there's been a lot of hype from the school around the football team so far. I'm excited with what they've done, and I think it's great for Duke to have another sport that they could really be excited about. So now we're moving on to probably what most of you thought we were going to talk about from the title of this podcast. It has finally happened. Dame has been traded to an unexpected destination, the Milwaukee Bucks. And Vince, before you say anything about the Heat losing Dame to the Bucks, who weren't really even in the conversation up until when the trade happened, we're just going to take a look at some of the key players and picks that were moved in this trade. So the Bucks received the big man Damian Lillard, and to the Trailblazers go Jrue Holiday, DeAndre Ayton. 2028 and 2030 Milwaukee first round picks and a 2029 Milwaukee first round pick swap. Now there is a third team in this trade, the Suns, and they get 4 players out of this as well, which I think has been the Suns have kind of been involved in everything in the last couple of years. I'm not saying all their trades have been great, but they've just popped up everywhere. I feel like you see a big blockbuster trade, then the Suns are just in the back getting something. So, Vince, I'm going to let you go off on your rant or whatever you want to talk about the Heat here. So, this
Yeah,
trade,
listen,
what do you think?
I'm very disappointed. I'm not just disappointed with Pat Riley in the Miami Heat. I'm disappointed with the NBA. And first I'll go with Pat Riley. I think he's just a slow general manager. He doesn't want to do anything. He better get off his couch at home and start making trades. We haven't done a single thing this offseason besides signing Josh Richardson. I mean, I know we ended up losing the finals, but just a cycle. It's a cycle. We always end up going to the finals, we lose, then we end up being really bad the next season, then we lose, then we go to the finals the next season and we lose. I don't understand if this team wants to try to get better or we trying to get worse. We're the same team every single year, and they're not even trying to improve the team. I don't know if we're just trying to see what we can do with the same team, if we're trying to get better players. I mean, we lost Gabe Vincent and Max Strus in the offseason. That is huge. I mean, they got offered an insane amount of money in their contracts. And you know what? I want to know why they got an insane amount of money? Because of the Miami Heat. If it wasn't for us and our coaching staff, they would have not got the money. I don't understand why we didn't try to sign either one of them and let them go to different teams because they are key, pieces to our team. And with the NBA, I just don't. I don't like that the Milwaukee Bucks weren't in discussion on social media. We didn't know that the Bucks were even gonna be able to possibly get Damian Lillard. I didn't even know they had the money to pay for Dame and Giannis at the same time. That's just insane. And to think about how crazy, this trade went down. It's a lot of pieces getting moved around. With DeAndre Ayton getting sent to the Blazers and Jrue Holiday getting sent to the Blazers, Nurkic getting sent to the Suns, and Grayson Allen getting sent to the Suns. It's not just huge for the Bucks. It's huge for the Trailblazers and the Suns. Now, I just feel like it's a really back to the Heat. I just think it's a very slow capability of Pat Riley's choice. I just think he should have went out and got Dame. I don't think we should have waited to get we waited to get Bradley Beal, then we waited to get Damian Lillard. We haven't gotten any of these guys. And in years prior, we said we were going to get Kevin Durant, we were going to get Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard. What happened? We didn't end up with any single one of them. I mean, this team, we really, if we're gonna be in trade talks, we got to make the trade and we got to make it happen because we cannot be letting trades fall through to different teams that don't need the player. And before I talk, and I know this isn't really about it's about the trade, but about more of a player, Jrue Holiday, who is arguably one of the best defenders in the league for a point guard. There has been mentions that he could go to the Miami Heat. And if the Miami Heat do go out and get him, I would be ecstatic. I will be insanely happy just because of the fact that we haven't done a single thing this offseason. So if the Miami Heat do go out and get Jrue Holiday, I think that can kind of make up for Dame. I know he's not on Dame's level, but I think just because the fact that the Trailblazers said, "Oh, we don't want Drew Holiday," I think the Miami Heat should go out and pursue to get him. If they don't go out and get him, then this is an F minus offseason for the Miami Heat because this is horrible decision making by not even Pat Riley, just the team in general. And in order to just be a good team, we need to have the right players, and we can't keep doing this every single year. Just keep on losing, losing, and losing. We got to go out and get the right players. So I don't know if that's how I feel. With just my team, I just feel like if we want to go out and win a championship, we need the right players.
I definitely agree with that. I think that that's a good way to go around playing sports. Yeah, you need the right players to win a championship, and I agree. A bit of a lackluster ending for the Dame saga, especially from the Heat side of it,
I mean,
where they yeah.
we lost one of our best players, Gabe Vincent and Max Strus. I mean, they with the teams that obviously need the player, but we could have at least signed one of them back. I would have enjoyed having either Gabe Vincent or Max Strus. I don't really care. They were great not only in this year's postseason but years prior. And I'm very disappointed with the Heat, and I'm disappointed with the NBA. I just feel like I'm really mad that the Bucks weren't in the trade talks, and we didn't know that they were even a mention to get Dame. So yeah, I just very disappointed.
I think the Bucks kind of came out of nowhere with this one, and I'm surprised because we see after the fact that Dame was still talking about the Raptors and the Nets and the Heat, and it was the Bucks who he never mentioned, who any GM ever mentioned, who the Bucks ever mentioned, who the Blazers ever mentioned. So it was definitely exciting when you see the notification that he went to the Bucks, and it was interesting. Everyone was freaking out, at least where I was when the news came out. So I think the Bucks are going to definitely go even farther than they have in the last couple of years, go to the finals, potentially win, especially with Giannis, his contract ending in a couple of years, looking for trade destinations himself, possibly.
Well, I mean, the Bucks did this for a reason, though, and I kind of think this just saved, Giannis's contract situation eventually in a couple of years. See now, there was speculations that Giannis would eventually want to leave the Bucks. He's been there for a couple of years now, but there's speculations that he would leave. And now that they got Dame, I think all that talk about him leaving might just all fake news now. I think he might just stay with the Bucks for his whole career.
Yeah, and the NBA season is upcoming with media day for most teams happening in a couple days and preseason starting soon. So we'll have more NBA talk and news coming up shortly as the season starts. But we're about to go to a league where the season is not starting, but coming to a close. The MLB playoffs are upon us. In a couple days, the regular season will be over. And we have a current playoff picture in front of us, which I just want to run through real quick. There are still a couple games left in the season, so these are not the final landing spots for these teams going into the postseason. Starting with the wild card, Houston, who is ranked number 6 going into the playoffs versus number 3 Minnesota Twins. The winner of that will play number 2 Rangers. Going back to the wild card, you have the Toronto Blue Jays, which are number 5, versus the Tampa Bay Rays, number 4. The Blue Jays are currently 1 game away from their magic number to clinch that spot. Tampa Bay has already clinched, and they'll be playing the surprise guest in the postseason this year with the number 1 seed, the Baltimore Orioles, who have won the AL East and are looking to go deep in the playoffs this year. Moving on to the NL, you have number 6 Miami versus number 3 Milwaukee. That's going to be a fun matchup as Miami hasn't been here in a little bit, and they will be playing against the winner of that. Will be playing against number 2 the Los Angeles Dodgers, who've known to choke in the playoffs the last couple of years. So we'll see if they can end that this year, especially with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman having their best seasons in a while. The next matchup, the Arizona Diamondbacks, another surprise team in the playoffs this year. I'm excited to see what they do versus one of the World Series teams last year, the Philadelphia Phillies, who are the number 4 seed this year. And they will play number 1 in the NL, possibly the World Series favorite, the Atlanta Braves. So, what series are you most excited to watch going into the MLB postseason?
Well, I mean, people would think I'd like to see the Marlins versus the Brewers. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely gonna tune in. I think that's an obvious for me. I love watching, Miami Marlin games. I've been going to games since I was little, but I'm actually not gonna really pick them. I'm gonna still watch the games, but I don't think that's the best matchup right now in the postseason. If we're talking wild card, I'm definitely tuning in the Phillies versus Arizona. I think this is probably one of the best matchups, and this is kind of determine who's gonna play. The first seed, Braves. Even though probably either one of these teams are gonna get eliminated because the Braves are winning the World Series. I just still think it's such a competitive matchup, and to see who wins because the Phillies were just in the World Series last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think we definitely everyone's got to tune into that.
Yeah.
So because I just think it's a good matchup. I think it's great baseball to watch.
The matchup I'm going to be watching is going to come in a couple weeks actually, and I want to see the Orioles play the winner of Toronto versus Tampa Bay. The Orioles have been incredibly surprising this season, becoming the number 1 seed in the AL. And even though I'm a Yankees fan and I don't particularly like any of the 3 teams I just said, I'm excited to see who comes out victorious there. And speaking of go ahead.
We'll talking about ALDS for a second. I think if we get to see a Houston Texas matchup, that would be pretty huge and pretty ecstatic to watch. That's going to be a good matchup. I'm telling you, that's probably the best matchup in the playoffs that we see. Not just because, obviously it's the second seed and the sixth seed, but these are 2 teams that are playing Texas. I think it's a huge rivalry, so I think that's definitely a game that we got to watch out for.
Yeah, and speaking of Houston and Philly, what do you think is the likelihood of a World Series rematch? Because if the Phillies were to win against the Diamondbacks, they'd be playing Atlanta, which would be a hard team to beat. And Houston has the Twins and the Texas Rangers, and I'm not sure how they're going to do there. As the Texas Houston series so far this year has been quite up and down for both teams, so that could be an interesting.
Listen, I just think it's like I don't think the Phillies will even be able to make it. I just think this Braves team is too competitively good. I just think that they have the better players, the better system, the better coaching, the better staff. So I'm not gonna take the Phillies making be able to run it back and go back to the World Series this season. I'm actually gonna take. I think I do. I'm gonna take the Astros. I think they have the highest chance, even though they're playing the Rangers. I think, these are 2 good teams, but the Astros are still so good. Just because they have a number 6 next to their name on a bracket doesn't mean anything. They're still such a good team, and they should still be a top 3 team in the AL. So I just think that the Houston Astros just have the better advantage to make it to the World Series this year.
Yeah, and we'll keep you updated on the postseason as it starts up soon. Next week, we will have the completed bracket and potentially the first couple games of the postseason has started. And as always, at the end of our episodes, we have the fast fact. The fast fact is against MLB again. I'm loving this. I'm a huge MLB fan. Love to see MLB sneaking it in as much as they have in this episode. The top 3 MLB teams with the highest payroll, that being the New York Yankees, the New York Mets, and the San Diego Padres, have all officially been eliminated from playoff contention. So
yeah, I mean, this is pretty huge, pretty big news. I don't know how I feel. I just feel like this is probably such a disappointing loss for all 3 of these teams, especially the Yankees and the Mets, just because the amount of money they spend. Not just the money. I just think just these 2 teams are known for being one of the 2 of the best teams in the league. Maybe not so the Mets now, but the Yankees. You see the Yankees every year in the playoffs. I don't know if that's just me. I feel like they've always
this would be first since 2016.
Yeah, growing up, I feel like I've always no, it's always been known as, oh, the Yankees are always making the playoffs. They're the best team in the MLB. Everyone loves the Yankees. Some hate them, some love them. But I just think like this team is just the better. I just think, coming from like my point of view, I just think that this is just a huge, huge loss. I think it's very disappointing for all three of these franchises, especially the Yankees.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And there's a fact that I saw earlier in the season, and neither of these guys are even on the Mets anymore, but Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, their combined pay was more than the entire major league pitching staff for the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, this is
Which
just
is
it's crazy.
that's absolutely insane. And the fact that that can even happen is crazy. And and Tampa Bay has been consistently good with one of the lowest payrolls in the league, which is just insane. And I think that other teams need to look at this, go for the small guys and build them up, which Tampa Bay has done an amazing job of doing. And we saw towards the end of the Yankee season, they called a bunch of guys from their farm system who've been drafted very highly. They looked at guys who potentially haven't played in a while at the beginning of the season.
Maybe the Mets should learn from them. So I mean, the Mets
Yeah,
don't end up
and
doing that.
they've
The
been
Mets
calling up
waste
guys
talent.
like and they've been calling up guys like Brett Beatty to start playing on their major league roster. The Yankees called up Jason Dominguez, Austin
He
Wells,
was
Everson
just
Pereira,
amazing.
Oswald Peraza, Oswaldo Cabrera, all those guys they called up and they actually did kind of well. It wasn't enough to push us fully into the postseason after kind of almost being eliminated in the beginning of July. So this is crazy news, and I think that teams need to learn from this. But again,
Definitely.
Shohei Otani is going to be a free agent this offseason, which will I'm guess
Probably.
if I
I'm
had to guess,
guessing
yeah.
he's probably worth like 50. No, like yeah, probably 50 mil like for like 4 years. Like it's gonna be a huge contract. I'm just saying. I just think they're gonna have to spend so much money on this future Hall of Famer because he's just so good. Even though he's undergoing surgery, I just still think he's gonna be so good, and teams are gonna want to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on him.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna go out and say it. Shohei Otani, if you want to come to the Yankees, fine. But I don't know if he's the right guy for the job right now with some of the
Yeah, but
issues
you
who've been
guys,
happening.
I know, but you guys can't like I don't know, like can you afford Judge and Otani at the same time? Like
Well, we can
that's
just
I I
we
mean
can
you're probably
we
gonna have to you're
yeah
probably gonna have to trade like the whole team.
we can, but I don't think we're gonna spend that money. Um, So that's kind of it for this week's episode of the Sports Coverage Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, check out the Spotify, and like and subscribe on the YouTube. We'll have shorts coming out alongside all of these videos and reels on Instagram. So thank you everyone for listening. My name is Andrew. I'm alongside my co-host Vince. Thank you for listening, and this was the 8th episode of the Sports Coverage Podcast.